What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. In this one, we have an excerpt from the Damocles Anthology Book 4, Hunter's Snare, and it talks about two factions going toe-to-toe, one of which is that of the Tau Empire, and the other one is one that GW likes to forget, because it is the White Scars. For a long time, I feel like the White Scars have not gotten their due. They are a very interesting chapter of Space Marines, especially because they're all about speed and bikes, and that's something that we never really get. The last time I remember anything bike related was the Outriders when 8th edition first came out, and of course there's Primaris everything, and besides that, that's pretty much all we get. So let's hope that this excerpt gives us some more inclinations to show GW that, hey, maybe you should cover the White Scars a little bit more. But with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into this 40k lore. Corsaro still knelt beside Semakar. Old Shatterhand was dying, red bubbles foaming at the corners of his mouth as he tried to speak, to breathe. He had been cut in two by the blast, and Corsaro shifted slightly, so that Semakar couldn't see his own legs lying some distance away. Told you so, the old man hissed. His fist tapped weakly against Corsaro's leg. Stupid, he gurgled. Easy, old man. You'll be fine. You've survived worse, Corsaro said, knowing this was a lie, even as he said it. You'll survive this. He looked up. The sounds of engines shook the ridge. Hasek and his bikers had made it through, and they've come back. The Kmar were making a fighting withdrawal. Their ambush had been ambushed, and they knew when they were beaten. They wouldn't stay long. He knew that they would have a long, hard ride ahead of themselves, back to their own lines. The old man gripped his wrist, and Corsaro looked down. My tanks are dead, Semakar said, staring up at the lightning sky. Now, so am I. His gaze sharpened for just a moment. They'll make me a ghost warrior, he rasped, and there was real fear in his words. For the first time, in his final moments, old Shatterhand was frightened. The thought of being interred within the armored sarcophagus of a Dreadnought caused even the staunchest warrior of the Ordo to quail. To be made one of the Ghost Warriors meant an eternity of sterile slaughter, never to feel the wind or taste the blood of the enemy. Bloody fingers dug into Corsaro's arm. Don't let them, he coughed. His eyes were wide, blood splattered onto his beard. Then, with a querulous sigh, his face went slack, and his hands flopped limply to the snow. Corsaro hesitated. There was an apothecary with Garachi. Semakar would be stabilized, kept hovering between the land of blood and the land of ghosts, until such a time as he could be encased in an adamantium biocoffin and join the ranks of the living dead. He was too valuable to lose. Old Shatterhand was a legend, a god killer and a master of war. The seers would oversee his return, and they would awaken him to fight anew. Unless there was nothing left to awaken. He looked up at Shadowsun, who was shouting orders to her troops. She met his eyes as he rose to his feet. He was my commander once, he said softly. He knew she could hear him. He was never my friend, for he had none, but he was my brother and my teacher, and he did not deserve this death. And he does not deserve what will happen next. They stared at one another. As the battle swept on all around them, Shadowsun had faced Dreadnoughts before, even as she likely knew, after all this time of studying the warriors of the Ordu, what such a fate meant to them. Then, just as he began to fear that he had misjudged her, Shadowsun inclined her head slightly, and he stepped back. Her fusion blaster vomited plasma, and Semakar's body was enveloped in a pyrithic shroud. Corsaro expelled a breath and looked at her. Shadowsun held his gaze for a moment. We could have been great friends, huntsman, she said. Her armor wavered, and a moment later she was gone to his sight. The sounds of bolter fire trickled off as the Tau retreated. leaving Rime Crag to the battered remnants of the Third Company. Corsaro looked down at the char stain that marked Semikar's passing, and he nodded to himself. Yes, he said, I rather think we could have. And with that being said, this was a passage from the Hunter's Snare. There's a lot to learn from this passage. For one, we see that the White Scars really don't have any liking to being interred on the Dreadnoughts. Usually, I feel like most Space Marine chapters see these Dreadnoughts as a way to keep fighting for the Emperor, a way to fight shoulder to shoulder with your brothers once again. Or even in death, they continue to serve. But here, what we see with the White Scars is that they are basically ghosts in the machine, unable to feel the air around them, unable to really take pride in what they're doing, almost like they're just fighting as servitors, unbeknownst to everything going on around them, just doing their job and nothing else. So because of this, we see that the Khan, Corsaro, and Shadowsun, one of the best Tau commanders out there, they seem to kind of understand each other as warriors do on the battlefront, and they're able, be it for just a moment, see eye to eye and truly understand one another. Now that's one of the cool things that we really don't see too often with the Tau Empire when they interact with that of the Imperium, especially the Space Marines. Space Marines are not very personable. They're basically just these soldiers that will stop at nothing to get the job done, and to even consider talking, allying, communicating with these Xenos could be seen as heresy. So this is a very interesting passage, one that I will always remember, especially because you don't really see too many instances of this. If you guys know of any other passages, excerpts, or any novels that really paint the Xenos, be it Tau or any other one, with the Imperium in a different light than just kill them at first sight, please let me know down below, because again, these are very few and far between. But as always, guys, thank you for liking, watching, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. And as always, it's been the Silent Alchemist here at One Mind Syndicate. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Always used to put my freedom first in any situation.